Welcome to a special show on the 2025 Delhi Literature Festival, a celebration of words, ideas and culture held at the iconic Bikaner House in the heart of the capital. This year's theme, Delhi Writes, Voices, Visions and Verses, brought together powerful conversations at the intersection of literature, business, politics and policy. Join us for a few highlight conversations in these special episodes of Media Dialogues with Storyboard18 as some of the finest minds took to the stage with bold books, sharp insights, and unfiltered perspectives. If we are talking about faith and Mr. Tata's faith, was he faithful? Was he faithful to the Zoroastrian faith? What did you talk about? Did you talk about faith with him?
Thank you, Delshad. That's a very interesting question. The Parsi religion means you can make wealth, but you have to make it the right way, number one. And two, the wealth has to be used for the society, for the welfare of the society. From there comes this trusteeship concept. Is this the entire Tata philosophy is built on this grid that we will hold the wealth of the society in trusteeship and give back to society.
You start the book by getting into Mr. Tata's childhood. That it also has a very meticulously researched family tree in there. But speaking about his childhood and the complexities of the Tata family, how did that early childhood, perhaps some of that loneliness and the complexities of the family itself, shape Mr. Tata's leadership style and his personal values?
There is a forefather called Bika Tata, whose one son is the ancestor of Jamshedji, and another that of Neville Tata.
And
that's what is, and I thought that was a great discovery, I found it very fascinating. And then in the book I have written one sentence. I said that makes Mr. Ratan Tata the only chairman to be directly related to the founder. By blood and by association, that is through his wife. Father was adopted from an orphanage, became the only son of Lady Navjabai Tata, moved into Tata House, which is supposed to be one of the most beautiful buildings
palace
in the country at that time. And he lived a life of a prince with 40 help to look after all your needs. And a house which is so splendid that even hosted people like Rabindranath Tagore. At the same time, I had a chapter called Tumult in Splendor. Some of his family members got very upset with that. I said, it is because his mother walked out on the family, when he was about 6, 7 years. And then everything broke loose. He was very close to his mother. Honestly. So father became distraught. He lost his equanimity, as a result of which R&T like Jimmy became orphans, virtually orphans. That's when his grandmother took over both the children and took them under her wings, and particularly R&T.
He was very close to her.
I had some lovely photographs of Lady Navjabai Tata from a painting, but there is no permission outside a show.
And she was a formidable woman herself.
Oh, she was completely formidable, very ethical, principled, and not afraid to say sorry when you make a mistake. That happens only after we have reached a much higher level.
Yes.
At a much higher. She used to even apologize to her grandson and say, Ratan, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and slip it under the door. That was that lady. But what happened? R&T became very insecure. He became so insecure and clingy, he started tagging along with his father even when he went for his parties. So Sunday lunch he used to host in Alibag. So Jimmy and him, they used to accompany him even for the party. It only meant that he was trying to fulfill a desire to be close to the father, fearing that he may also walk away. So you can imagine the trauma. And he was quite upset about the whole situation. Even as late as maybe 2020, whenever he spoke about his childhood, he became very remorseful. He thought that he had to face a rough deal because of his mother's separation. You know, in school, he said he was outclassed and singled out. Even today, a man of great courage, determination, finally, he overcame all these struggles, challenges in life.
Let me ask you this, and this is not in the questions I shared with you, but given the examples that he had in his life of relationships and the unique relationships that he himself had, whether it was with Lady Tata, who was, of course, a great influence on him, and I'll ask you on that question, which is, that she was a very principled woman and stuck by it no matter what, and he had that, but she also said sorry when she was wrong. And I wanted to also ask you that did RNT also inherit that trait? But before I go there, I want to ask you quickly if you could tell me, Dr. Mathew, how did the relationships that he saw all around him and in his family affect his relationships as he grew up, as he went into becoming a teenager, and then 20s, 30s, all the way through to the end of his life?
See, very complex situation. At one point of time, I mustered the courage to ask him. I said, sir, it is true that all the children of your mother are unmarried. 4 children. Auntie, Jimmy, and the 2 daughters from the second marriage. I asked him, does it have to do with the separation of your mother from the family first? He was taken aback by the question, and he's a very smart guy. He said, Thomas, I need to think about it to give you an answer. I did not ask him a second time. I have hinted in the book, his insecurity in his childhood may have played a very strong part in him living a bachelor. He had 4 serious relationships. The first one, he says he wanted to get married to. The second one also, he says the same. Third also is the same. Fourth also is the same. But according to me, when they take another step, I think he took 2 steps backward. He didn't have the courage to walk the last mile. Anybody would do the same, I guess, because it had burnt his soul. And he passed through very, very difficult times as a child. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did it affect his political life? Did it affect his business life? His principles? Answer is a big no. He did not let that happen. On the other hand, if he believed you, he would be so forthcoming that you will at times ask him, sir, these are things you need not divulge to anybody. So that's the kind of man he was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What were some of the regrets that he had, or things that he felt that he needed to maybe say sorry for? Because we go back to Lady Tata, and a very principled woman. So RNT naturally, inherited some of that. Did he also inherit the other trait of accepting his mistakes, accepting and saying sorry?
Now, I do not agree with any conclusion that Nano was a failure. You have to go much deeper to understand why I'm making the statement. Why did RNT start the Nano? RNT could have started probably a factory which produces Lamborghini, Maserati, Cadillac, Audi, or anything. When I interviewed Henry Kissinger told me RNT is not a man who does business to make money. He says he looks at a social cause that remains unfulfilled, makes a business proposition out of it, and would fulfill that social goal. Nano is the best example. He wanted to provide safe travel for middle class and lower middle class. Therefore, he hit upon the idea of nano. Now, does nano deserve to be criticized as a failure? The answer is no. Why? Nano as a concept flourished. So what happened to nano? These are not my words. Nano ushered in what is called a nano revolution. A revolution throughout the world. There is this director called Gough Wardle of Advanced Mobility Research in the Center for Design in Pasadena, one of the topmost design institutes in the world. He says R&T's concept of nano brought in what is called a nano effect, a nano revolution. The concept got the attention of all the major car makers. And they started accepting what is called frugal engineering as a concept.
Absolutely. Now address the second part, which is the Cyrus Mystery episode for us.
See, the basic problem with R&T has been that he never came out openly. That's because he's a very reticent man. He doesn't speak much. He wants somebody else to articulate for him. And as I told you earlier, you say anything in praise of him. Now, what happened in Cyrus Mystery case? Let me put it in very clear terms to you. Please understand, there is a fundamental reason why R&T had to move it. Number one, but R&T says, I made a mistake in not being in the selection committee, which finally recommended Cyrus Mystery for the post of Chairman Tata Sons. He says, that was a mistake on my part. I thought that I should stay away so that people would feel comfortable that all the people in the interview board would be equals, and therefore it would be a unanimous decision. On the other hand, if I would have been there, people would have said, R&T made the choice. I wanted people to be happy. But then he said it was a utopian decision. Please understand, R&T held Cyrus Mystery. And in fact, R&T was responsible for having Cyrus Mystery appointed as a director in Tata Sons. Although Cyrus Mystery's father wanted his other brother, Cyrus Mystery's other son, to be appointed. But R&T said, no, I will appoint only Cyrus Mystery because he thought he had great education. Now what happened? I'm not trying to say Cyrus Mystery is a bad man. I knew him personally. The point is that the man did not have the experience enough to run a salt to steel to software conglomerate. Please understand, R&T from 1962 to 1991 cut his spurs. One fine morning, you cannot be appointed as chairman, like I'm an IAS officer, or let's say she's tomorrow appointed as chairperson, Indian Animal Husbandry. Is it possible? No. Cyrus Mystery did not have the experience of having run even one company. Very smart man. But if you would have probably had the benefit of having run maybe 1, 2, or 3, like Mr. Chandra said, then probably the scene would have been different. Now, under Cyrus Mystery, the performance of Tata Sons and his companies slipped. That upset R&T. Now, why should it upset R&T? Please understand, he is the chairman of Tata Trust. Tata Trust gets its funds from the dividends which Tata Sons get. Okay? And Tata Sons dividend can only come if Tata companies perform. So therefore, if the companies don't perform, the tap which flows into the philanthropic activities of Tata Trust will dry up. He says, Thomas, I have a fiduciary relationship to step in. Otherwise, what will happen to the schemes meant for the poor and to fulfill social cause? Number one. Then there is another aspect which is less known, not well articulated. You know, R&T was a man of great ethical moorings, and he would not do anything to step away from that, whatever may be the cost. So as early as in 1998, he started what's called the Tata Code of Conduct. Tata Code of Conduct, he started and made it compulsory for every Tata company and Tata employee to sign it. Please understand, in 1998, when he started it, when he initiated the concept Tata Code of Conduct, even companies like KPMG, which is supposed to be an audit company, did not even have this concept. So he was far ahead. Now, when you have Tata Code of Conduct, please understand one thing. The chairman of Tata Sons would have to lead by example. Yes. Now, what happened here, let me tell you. It is not Cyrus Mystery's fault. But Shapoorji Pallonji is a contract, is a company which gets into contracts, company which does a lot of buildings, etc. For many, many years, most of the, no, I wouldn't say most, a lot of the projects of Tata Steel, Tata Motors were done by Shapoorji Pallonji Group, okay? Now, after Cyrus Mystery becomes a chairperson, it does not behove the chairperson to be connected with a company which gets large amounts of contract from Tata Sons. If you are in the Indian Administrative Service, you will get suspended and asked to go home. I don't know if in CNBC they would do that, but I'll just give you an example. Just giving an example. For the 16 months from 2012 to 2013, after he took over as deputy chairman, when R&T was there, Shapoorji Pallonji got about 1,361 crores during that phase itself. And that was about 48% more than the monthly average. Now, let's put it like this to you. Okay. I'm the chairperson of Tata Sons. She is the chairman of Tata Steel. There's a contract to build a new factory unit. Shapoorji Pallonji, that's my company, is also participating in it. Would it be fair on her? No. So the problem is that whether Cyrus Mystery asked the company directors or the man in charge of contracts, the company started getting more contracts. So R&T wrote to him and said, when you were appointed, I had instructed that you would create a Chinese wall between you and your group, and that you will have no interest. And that is a condition on which I recommended your approval to the board. Even after 3 years, that was not done. Yeah. And R&T in his own hand wrote to him 3-4 times. And then he asked me a question. He says, Thomas, how can I hold a poor supervisor in Tata Steel responsible when the chairman himself cannot be held responsible? He said, look at the quandary. What do I do? Do I step in or stay back? He says, I have only one interest. I have no children to hand over this company to or this conglomerate to. I owe my responsibility to my forefathers who have entrusted the future chairman of Tata Trust to keep the amounts which they have saved for future generations and for society. And if I am not able to do it, then I'm failing in my duty. That was, and believe me, as I say it, and I've said it on many occasions, removal of Cyrus Mystery hurt Mr. Tata more than Mr. Cyrus Mystery. It virtually burned him. It hurt him so much. It affected him internally. And you know why? He kept on saying, Thomas, this was his regret. I had to open the door for him in the non-Tata way.
Given the way that he was guarded and reticent and very, almost fierce about his personal space and his life.
See, to me, I think you would have been quite upset. I'll tell you why. What is a will? A will is a personal decision of a human being. Okay? You can't question a person's will. I'll give you one small example. Sir Ratan Tata died, okay, in 1918 in St. Ives in England. I asked R&T, I said, sir, can you give me a peek into his will? He said, Thomas, that will be unethical, but let me think over it since you're writing the book. I said, sir, don't worry. So I went into Manchester Times of 1918, went to England, got that. And in it he writes about Lady Lavjbai Tata. He says, after my death, I would expect Lady Lavjbai Tata to forget the restrictions placed by Parsi religion and to live our life as if I'm still alive. Okay. Every Parsi can criticize it. But it's not for you to criticize. To me, a will is the last testament of the emotional aspects of a person. You don't know why a person has done that. You please let him be. Because he would have done it under various circumstances. Some of the people, he loved his sisters, and the sisters were his ears and eyes. He gave them some part of the money. Somebody else been given money, but he was his only friend right from Jamshedpur. Making this book a hagiography. So I turned out and asked people. I spent 65 to 75 lakhs from my pocket to write this book in order to parry questions about objectivity. He said, I don't pay my money in order to praise another man. Correct? I did it only to ensure that nobody will throw stones and say, this is a paid job. If anything, R&T has to pay me, he owes me. I don't owe him. Maybe the only guy he owes to, right?
Thank you so much, Dr. Mathew. Pleasure chatting with you.